Good evening, everybody, or to any of you who are alive and well on this this Saturday, very late night here in California. Or I guess whatever you want to call a late night in California. I am joined by friend of the channel and also part of Aussieverse, and that is none other than Cynation Comics' very own Aaron Mack. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's weird because you're like, it's a late Saturday night, and I'm like, I've already had my Saturday night.
We got a couple of people in here, so so there are some people hanging about, but we are thankful that you are taking the time to talk with me about the stuff that you're doing, my friend. But I guess before that, what have you had this morning? I know that it's earlier in in the day for you as opposed to me.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm still sort of recalibrating, but it's been so we've had Josh. I don't think you guys have met him, so he's the other half. Me and him together with the Mac Bros,
Mhm.
and he's currently at a convention, but not a comic convention, a guitar convention,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
representing the guitar brand that he's endorsed by, and that all kind of ties into to the Anacomic and everything. But right, it's kind of I had this really bizarre experience because I went down there yesterday and spent the day there, and he's the music guy and I'm the comic guy. So
Oh.
at a comic convention, I'm in my element, and he's like, "This is weird," and I finally knew what that felt like being at the guitar place, being so out of my element and going like, "What is this, man? Like, is this like wood?" And the guy's like, "That's metal, mate." And I'm like, I have no clue.
Okay. Well, you know what? That I think that works for me, I suppose, because it's like you guys fill each other's, I guess, like different experiences, right? Where you get like, I don't know anything about this one thing on one side, and then the other side, it's like I know everything that needs to be here. So it's like, say, if you're at a guitar convention, like he can fill you up on whatever the
Oh yeah.
information is, and then vice versa, right? I mean, that has to be the fun of it.
I just tap his shoulder and I'm like, I sub you in. You're in. I'll sit this one out.
It's a nice back and forth. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. But yes, it is only 8:30 they say, but I at least try to get to sleep early, Casa. Sometimes I am not allowed to. By sometimes I mean every time. I only get like 5 hours of sleep a night nowadays, but it is what it is. Yeah, is it a Kyle thing? The yeah, man. I got the music meets cats in action, as the subtitle headline, and I was just like, looking back on it, maybe I should have titled it something differently, but this is what we do. I mean, obviously we can get
Sums it
to it,
up.
but yeah.
Music meets cats. Yeah.
But of course, this is again Aaron from Aussieverse, who does regularly pop up. Thank you, James, for the link down below. I'm also going to send in some love to Bo, who is going
Yes.
through a lot. I can't imagine um, losing a family member very close to you in the case of that. So wanted to send all the love to out to him again. Sending all the hugs that I can. I know that uh, the people here from Near Mid feel the same way. So
Yeah. Shout out to Bo.
he makes a run. I have never seen it. I will say I have never seen anybody more enthusiastic in their intros and outros as him. Like you want to talk about like hype man. I
Yeah.
mean, there's only so many guys I think that can match his level of energy.
He gets you both like psyched up before the show, but also a bit nervous because I'm like, how do I top that? How do I top those energy levels? You know?
I remember when I was talking to him, like the first time I was on Aussieverse back. This was months ago, right? And
Mm.
it was like at 3 or 4 in the morning because that's when you guys are on. I was like, if I'm gonna try to top this while everybody's asleep, I'm going to die. But no, super big shout out to him. But yes, I guess we got a lot of Kyles here. So look at that. Aaron and all the Kyles. You can call yourselves the third and fourth Max, I suppose.
Yep. It's a big family, it's like going to like Asian family reunion. It's just like, oh, that's actually your uncle, that's your cousin, big family.
I can't tell you how many times like I've gone to the Philippines. Every single time like I go back to the Philippines, it's like I meet a completely brand new family member that's apparently like been there since the beginning of time.
Yeah. They're like, I watched you as a baby. I'm like, I don't know you.
No, I kid you not. Like the last time that I went, which was back in 2017, 2017. I was supposed to go last year, but I had school.
Mm.
That's a different story for a different time. I, was at my grandma's funeral, and there were like two people there who like talked to me and said, "Oh, like I remember when you were 2 years old and you were over at our house, and it was this and that, and like now to see you all grown up." And I'm like, I thank you, but I don't know you. Like it always happens. I swear.
But you have to pretend like you know them, or it's rude.
Exactly.
Mm.
So I'm like, I thank them, I shake their hand, I ask them, could I get some ube ice cream?
Yeah.
That's how it works for me. But nonetheless, we are thankful to have Aaron on here again at a very different, fashionable time to talk about Anna, which you are on a world tour for. So let me see if I can bring in the second screen to show what I am talking about. If I can move this in. So again, want to thank him for sharing all of the information and details out with me. And I have seen your Instagram. It's like you're promoting this like back and forth. You're moving all over. So if you could please tell me about a brand new tale that blends fiction with reality, if you may.
Yeah, well, first off, like I love doing graphics because they kind of say it all, but then I also love doing reels because you can kind of say the same thing but in different ways and repackage it, and it's still a fun thing. So, look, I'm gonna basically copy my own script, but yes, Anna is a tale that blends fiction with reality. It unites music with comic books and introduces cats to violence, which I love that. I love that little tagline because it kind of doesn't take itself too seriously because basically Anna is this band. It's an Australian band which I'm connected to via Anna is my sister-in-law, and Josh, who is currently at the guitar convention, my brother, is the really mean looking guy with the scowl up in the corner. Kiba, he really nailed his angry scowl. Yeah, zoom in on the scowl. Like that's actually less scary than he is in real life.
Okay. If I can find.
I'll find a real life picture of him.
I guess my mouse won't be able to move me from left to right. So let me see if I can get back out. Okay, here we go. How's that?
Yeah, well, it's a really it's a really menacing look. On a separate note, I thought Kiba, who was the cover artist for Anna issue 1, I thought he did a great job capturing the expression. But essentially, look, this comic book was very much a combination of what began as we wanted to do something different for band merchandise, because we were in the process of coming up with a new item, and everybody there was bringing t-shirts. They were bringing all the usual fare, like stubby holders and keychains, and we really wanted something that was unconventional but also something that you could produce cost efficiently as well. With t-shirts, you got to make like XS, S, M, L. And because we were already working on our first title, Gods Among Men, we said, why not do a comic book? And so this became, that spurred on this idea. Josh and Anna went away and started discussing ideas. They came back to me and it was like, boom, we got the idea. I said, what do you mean you've got the idea? They said, for the entire series. So basically, it's this interdimensional goddess comes to Earth and starts recruiting this team. So we basically building up this lore and backstory for the band as this sort of super powered team.
That is interesting that you managed to create a band, had that all influenced, and made them superheroes. I mean, superheroes have been one of the biggest genres, right? You want to talk about the
Absolutely.
last 20, 25 years with the explosion of the Marvel movies, The Dark Knight, and getting to see them all throughout. You now have this as sort of saying, like, what if we can make Australia a band, right? Like that to me is a pretty interesting idea.
Well, it's also, the thing is, I guess we had the benefit of, sometimes you might make a comic book with a band, or like the band comes from the comic book, but then in this case, the band already had this template with their chosen style and how they wanted to present themselves was everybody other than Anna wears a mask. And I remember when we were shooting the music video way back in like 2023, I made this offhand comment that was like, you guys look freaking cool. Like you're in black, you've got the mask, you kind of like a superhero team. And that was the seed that was
Mhm.
planted. And now fast forward all the way till now, we released a 6-page ashcan called Anna Issue Zero, which we were selling at shows, and that gradually, grew, and it got us to a point where we went, you know what, let's do a full issue 1 and have Anna properly enter the comic sphere.
So you went from how was the production like, right, on the ash can as opposed to like what made you say like before we try and push this issue 1 out, have those 6 issues so that people can preview it? What was that like?
Well, it was very much a case. It was funny because that came about while we were working on the first title, Gods Among Men, and you're having to juggle between 2 projects based off like priority, right? And because
Mhm.
Gods Among Men, there was an ideal release date, but with Anna, we really need to. I think they performed 2 shows without any merch, so this was still really early days. And we said, no, we need to start bringing something to the table because people were already asking, like, hey, you guys have any merch? So we went, look, we can work together with, the team we've already got with Gods Among Men. So the art, the pencils, inks, and colors, same creative team as our first title. And we went, yeah, we can put out this ashcan quickly enough that we can bring it to the table for the show. So because we already worked together with that same creative team and we had, the printers contacted, we were able to get that done, within a few months
Mm,
and make it a reality. But by that point, we already had this whole issue 1 story basically planned out in our heads.
interesting stuff. And I just also want to note here that you did the lettering on this, and this always mystifies me because I do think, and while I would love to talk to you about the dialogue and the script and whatnot, lettering is, I think, the most underappreciated art in comics by
Hmm.
far because they're the ones responsible for where you put the text boxes. Do you put in the SFX in the background? Where exactly are you allowing the script to tell the story in places? How did you learn the lettering, learn that design, and say, hey, we want to apply it here as well?
So this is a kind of bizarre look. Ultimately, with the lettering, we looked at elements like pencils and inks, and I went, there's, between Josh and I, like, we're not artists, right? So I'm like, that's not something. We need to find somebody who can really do that. Lettering was one of those areas where I'm like, look, as when you're starting out independent, and we still very much are, like, you want to see, as how much can I do, how much can I take on myself reasonably. And so lettering was one of those things that I looked into. And I'm gonna be honest, I just opened up a Spawn comic which I had on my table. I looked at how they did it, and then
Mhm.
I went onto YouTube and I saw a tutorial, and I'm like, if I can just get it as close as I can in a few Google searches, um if it looks good, then we're good. Obviously, along the way, there'll be little things that you go, oh, this presents new problems. But a lot of it was like a trial and error. I just kind of threw myself in the deep end and was like, look, if we don't do it, we're paying someone to do it. And that's kind of money we could put forward to something else. So, yeah, that's kind of how it came about. And I like to think I'm getting better from Gods Among Men into Anna and beyond.
Interesting. Have you found not only this brand new experience thrilling, I guess I would suppose, is there anything that you learned about lettering maybe in the process of graphic design or something else that you just told yourself like I want to do that besides obviously the money portion? Is it something that you have found to be able to enjoy more as you do along, or have you learned anything from it?
I would definitely say that because primarily I'm on script duties,
Right.
and there is something nice being able to sort of like, I work together with, so Ben Sullivan is our artist who does pencils and inks, and it is nice to be able to present to him, like, I can draw in the bubbles to go roughly like, okay, this could look cool, like where they situate here. And to me, like lettering, right? It's got to work with the art, right? So I think that's such an important consideration, and that's something for me that, um, you know, in the doing, you start to kind of see it's like a dance, but you start out a bit clumsy and then you refine your moves a little
Mhm.
bit and you learn how to dance with the art. And then even little things like how important character placement is, because you
Mhm.
can't have all the tails crisscrossing. So there was a page in Gods Among Men that was like this. It was almost a hot mess, but then we managed to kind of reconfigure it, and you learn a beautiful thing from something that's almost a hot mess sometimes.
Right. It's like you're cooking up something in the kitchen and then you accidentally like put a random ingredient in and then the
Right.
food tastes a little bit different than you
Hmm.
originally ended up expecting it to. But it's really nice to hear to hear like you have been able to learn something from it and
Oh,
use it in
absolutely.
other areas as well.
100%.
So that is nice. And yeah, like script and whatnot, like when you think about, doing dialogue, right? Because it is your brother and also Anna who are doing the main story. When
Mm.
you have to fill in the dialogue, when you have to actually like go down and say like these are two characters interacting, like what process do you use like when you go about putting their story onto the page?
So what I this was something that came about. It manifested in multiple ways, but I'll often kind of act it out a little bit. Like I would type out the line based off my understanding of the character, which was beneficial with Anna, right? Because we're actually talking about being based off real people from the band. So I'm able to observe and kind of see some of their mannerisms and little things like that. Um, but then I would further try and act it out, say it, and then go, does this feel organic to that character? This was something that I was doing back with the previous title. And even before, it's a really good like film directing trick, because if you want characters to feel layered, the script is often from one person, but you got to try and start the base off already giving the characters their own voice in writing before it is performed.
Interesting stuff there. Because like I like I guess I'd like, just to hear that like you guys are, trying to synchronize amongst yourself.
Mm.
And also too, like it's a completely when you have so many different people working on the book, right? Because you got Ben Sullivan also doing
Mm.
the interiors, right? And
Yeah.
then it's you figuring out like, oh, what story elements do I want to put into the issue? I mean, that's a lot of stuff beforehand, like
Mhm. It
before you get in, yeah.
I will say though, it's funny because like when people kind of we all sit down and we discuss sort of the creative element, I still any day prefer the complexities of the creative element over the complexities of things like, how do we grow the brand, how do we get the book out there? The creative side's like a playground,
Mhm,
it's like doing parkour, because you're thinking about how can I creatively get from point A to point B, and it's fun,
mhm.
you know?
It's nice to hear. I like the parkour reference. Maybe you should put in a parkour issue in
Um,
in Anna.
yeah, very, very possibly. And what's great, and this was one big thing for us, looking at comics versus film, is you go like, I want somebody to do parkour, I want somebody to do a triple backflip or fly through the air. Draw it, and it's done.
Oh man, that's so fun. And how was it like getting Ben Sullivan on? And like what has he done, I guess, for all like for somebody watching this, say who isn't familiar with the name.
So, we first knew Ben Sullivan. We first met him back with our previous title, and Ben. I remember the first time in the Australian scene. He's actually done quite a lot of work with quite a few people. A lot of people know his name. He is a bit of an elusive character. I was quite fortunate to sort of get in contact with him at the time that I did, because I think he doesn't have Facebook. But I managed to get his email and reached out to him, and then I meet him and I was a bit nervous, and he's actually like just the loveliest guy. And what was so important with Ben was that he just, our first title, Gods Among Men, was this really sort of like grounded, gritty, true crime with, a bit confronting, a bit more, so very, very different tonally from Anna. But Ben got it, and I think that's what made us really go, Ben, you are core team, like you are core team member. And he's just been he's just been amazing. He's helped us work on, the internals for Anna. Even down in that graphic, you can see, right, there's an upcoming Anna Japan tour, and we wanted actually a comic style poster for that.
Interesting stuff. And you've been going around everywhere. It's like every single time like I click on, a story from you or stuff you send me, it's like you're in a completely brand new location.
Well,
What's that been like?
sometimes. Oh, thank you. Well, sometimes it's just it's just trying to do different kinds of reels. Because that's our sort of out of the box way of marketing, which is like we'll entertain you and then also remind you, hey, by the way, like we make comic books.
Mhm.
But yeah, like Europe was the start of the year, which was cold but thoroughly enjoyable. But also it was a work trip, but also very enjoyable. And then yeah, now we're kind of sort of gearing up for Japan in April, which is exciting because I've never been at all, and I hear lots of good things. And it's April; that's when the cherry blossoms bloom. So it's going to be
So you're
just
gonna be getting
beautiful.
the beauty of nature, don't it?
Yeah, the weather's actually going to be good this time because Europe wasn't even that. Like I tell people in like northern parts of the US or Canada, and they're like, "That's not cold." Like -6. They're like, "Nah, it's not cold." And I'm like, "Shut up, it's cold."
And I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone who lives in California, right? So like the idea
Mm.
of cold to me is like anything 55 degrees Fahrenheit or under. I don't know what it is in metric.
Oh,
Unfortunately, I wish I
I
had
need
conversions.
I need to pull out the conversion. We'll do a live conversion. Okay, Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Hey Josh, we're talking indie.
Yes, we're talking Fahrenheit to Celsius here. Also, I'm in full agreement. I just did the conversion, so that's for anybody in the alternative temperature system. That's about 13 degrees Celsius, which is cold, but it's nice. It's a nice cold.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the regular winter temperature, at least here in the East Bay.
Okay, that's not bad.
Or your usual cold or midday in San Francisco.
Okay,
So
because here out in Melbourne, our cold's probably something like pushing like a high 40 degrees
mhm.
Fahrenheit. Yeah, not bad.
That's
It's
not
nice. I
too
like it.
bad. No,
It's not
comparatively. And I hope you enjoy Japan just as much as or a little at least a little bit more than Europe. Bring home a Pokemon or something.
bring home a Pokemon. If I can clear enough space, and I've heard things about Japanese audiences. They're different in terms of their approach to merch. Like the CD industry is still very big in Japan, and a lot of the bands have told us that bringing a comic book, which is something very few. I don't know many bands who bring a comic book. Apparently, that's gonna do really well, and I'm looking forward to sort of putting that theory to the test.
Sure, because it's a lot of the manga culture there, right? It's the
Mm,
tankobon, it's the
mm,
shonen jump. It's going to be a lot different than it's a serialized, comic like something like this, right? Where it's,
mm,
flip front back, call it a day.
mm.
So it's I think it's a lot different from at least from their perspective versus yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like what was really beneficial for us was like, as you can see in the top right there, I've got a copy right here. We actually gave the Euro Tour fans the first access to Anna issue 1 by doing a Winter's Tour edition. I'll show you a little. Actually, this is the page that you've seen. Um,
So cool.
Thank you. Yeah. It's kind of cool to be able to do a spin on the variant cover thing, and most people would just have like a tour edition T-shirt or something. But we're like, yeah, let's do a tour edition variant cover.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, like I mean, variant covers have been very big, as you might know, for the
Hmm.
last 20 years or so. Thank you, Mr. Todd McFarlane, for creating the concept. But often, like I find the coolest variants to be like, it's usually pinups, right? For
Mm,
those who just want their superhero to look great or their character to look great. But also the ones that like, oh, there's like a punchline or there's a joke to it, right? So
mm,
I've always found that like the cooler or like the more unique the variant is, typically the better it will do for
mm,
whoever is going to purchase or look at that or save it to their phone or something like that.
Absolutely. Like there's something to me where it's like, people place value in variant covers because of things like the artists or, there's some kind of like, I'm not sure if the terms are ascribed value to
Hmm.
it. Like it's sort
Yeah,
of
sure.
like an occasion.
Hmm.
So yeah, right. Being able, and that's with putting the tour dates on there, so you're kind of like, bam, this is short of having a big old poster, which posters are just like a nightmare in transit.
Oh, I bet. Because of how
Yeah,
big they are, how much you have to like carry, making sure that they're not torn, right?
yeah, exactly. Like you have to get the freaking cylindrical travel thingy. All the terms are just going out of my head. But like a comic book is actually a really good um merch to be able to sort of
Hmm.
transport around. So that was another perk behind a book.
Right, just to have those serialized issues
Mm.
and just have to worry about them being padded enough so they're not like bouncing around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like time and time and they look great on display, and it really helps standing out. I keep sort of jokingly saying this thing like, yeah, we're out here turning gigs into Comic-Con. Because you'll get, after the show, there'll be people who are buying the book and they're asking the band, "Oh, can you sign it?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course you can get it signed."
Of course, which is, well, one of the coolest parts. And also, real quick comments about the weather. Josh talks about living in Atlanta,
Oh,
where yeah, the summer is over. Okay, I know my Celsius, at least for freezing and cold, right? So like freezing is 0 and boiling is 32, right?
boiling
Or no,
32
boiling is
degrees.
100, right?
Boiling's 100.
Boiling is 100, and then in Fahrenheit it's 212. Okay, so I got those. So yeah,
That's
um,
in Atlanta. Okay, so over 100 Fahrenheit. That's hot, but recently in Melbourne we did have a day that was just short of 110 Fahrenheit. We had a few days like that. So it's pretty, yeah, we're in all the hot places.
look at that. It's like you're either hot or you're cold. It's maybe you should bring Katy Perry along on your tour to
Yeah.
sell comics. uh, and yeah, Partworks Comics reader says only thing keeping UK roads open in water is salt. Fine most of the time, but it works. It works by lowering the freezing point of water. Useless on the rare occasion it gets to -20 degrees Celsius or lower.
I will say that was probably because obviously Melbourne and like I'm guessing like with you guys in California, we're not so familiar with snow.
No.
So it was a
What is that?
you know what's really bizarre is prior to going to Europe, I was just like, man, I've always wanted to see snow in a city, but I already knew I didn't want to go live where snow was. And it was exactly that experience. We got to like the drive to Warsaw from Slovakia, and I'm like, wow, snow on the mountains, snow on the road. This is beautiful. And then very quickly it becomes, hey, why is the snow moving sideways? And then you realize you're actually driving through a blizzard.
Right.
And from from 6 hours, the map suddenly tells you it's gonna be about 9 hours now, and you're like, oh, why? Oh dear God, please no. So it's fun and exciting and new to travel and all these experiences. And I got a great reel, holding up the winter's tour in the snow. So good things out of scary things.
Oh yeah, the best part I think about the creative process is that you can always find some sentimental value, whatever that might be, to be able
Mm,
to do whatever it is that you need to do, right? And I guess in the case
mm,
of you, why not use that opportunity as a way to say, "Hey, I'm in the snow and I've got a comic I just created." How cool is that? Like
Oh
just the
yeah,
concept of it.
yeah. I mean, look, and that's the thing, right? And this is funny because like the with everything we talk about, it'll kind of like dip and sort of redirect. But yeah, like I got a cool reel, but then the part that doesn't get shown was I got called a the moment I entered the Polish border, I got called a Polish swear word. So
Oh.
I was just like, hey, welcome to Poland, baby.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least you got a hot dog or
Y-
something?
Yes. Oh, okay. Don't get me started on the Polish hot dogs. They are one of the greatest things. They've got them at every single convenience store, and the Polish hot dog is just amazing.
I have to write that down then because we only get
Yeah.
the ones here at, whatever convenience store or
Mm.
like, small restaurant that might offer them here. But like in Poland, I mean, that's the home, right? So like you're gonna get the food there in the motherland.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's one of those things as well, like being able to travel to these, because like I would not Poland, frankly, would not have been at the top of my travel list. Everybody wants to go to Japan, everybody wants to go to the US and the UK, but right, going to Poland and realizing some of the best hot dogs can be found at the convenience store
Right.
where they, it's a bizarre little thing, but what a fun discovery.
That's interesting. That's interesting to note. Josh also says I would look up Comiket since that is the largest indie convention in Japan.
Okay, I will write. Oh, I will type that down.
Type that down. Give me 30 seconds.
Comic Cat. Okay, amazing. Yeah, like this is a great thing too as well, because when we went to Europe, it was very much this thing of like, how can we maximize our time, because the band is there trying to focus on the live tour, and I'm in that sort of comics mind, right? Like, I'm already here in Europe. How can I maximize that time? So I made sure to take a day when we were in Budapest in Hungary, go down to a comic store, and I walked out and we were able to get a book stock there, which I was just like, yes, yes.
Found
You
one.
know, it's very well, it's always scary because you never know how it's gonna go. But you're like, dude, I flew all the way across the world here with my books. Come
Mhm.
on, like, do me a solid or something. And that's sort of the reality of it, like, you have to hustle and you have to do it. Wow,
That's a lot of
110,000.
people, man.
Yeah. But,
Parworks Comics Reader, yeah, it's insane. I first class users of you know what? I've met people like that, in the Philippines, but it's like few and far between. Where it's like you could expect it from if you're in a certain if you're with a certain type of people, right?
mm,
I guess I will have to mark that if I ever do a speech in Poland or in Warsaw or something, and I have to explain.
I won't say what the word is, but like, if we're thinking of the same Polish word, then I know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
word.
yeah.
Literally the first word I was taught just as we crossed into the border.
An interesting experience. I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah.
King Sport Cal says, "Where's Omar? I'll take Dom Do." You know what? That's the biggest compliment I can get. Omar is currently drunk glamping. Like that is literally where he is at right now. He was off this morning. The Melanie and the ladies took over the morning stream, and I joined in like last 20 minutes because I typed something. And Melanie was like, "Why weren't you here from the start?" I'm like, "Okay." So I'm
Okay.
happy to be here. I'm happy to talk with my friend Aaron. Um, so yeah, drunk by a space heater.
I'm feeling really left out now because it's 4 p.m. right now and it's still not socially acceptable to be drunk yet in Australia. So, oh, actually, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Well, if Californians will, I think, find a way, like especially like after 8 p.m., just to get the most lit. Like I've been at college parties. I will say that some tend to take it over the top. So
Ah,
I'll
those
keep it there.
those days are behind me.
No self-esteem for. I'm happy to be
Oh.
alive, Josh. That's the most. That's the most I will get. Um, yeah. Tell Maddie she's cool. I do love Maddie as well, but I want to get back to more of the story beats, if I may, for your book because we talked a little bit about it earlier, where you talked about we're bringing a band along, making them superheroes. You've got cats with violence,
Hmm.
and there's also an interdimensional god that seeks out the greatest champions our world has to offer.
Hmm.
Because all the world's a stage. If you would let me know about that or what the pitch is there.
So, this is actually a line from the book,
Hmm.
which I remember when we were sort of, when we were in the process of sort of writing it. This kind of this line in particular came to me because I used to be a theater kid, and for some reason I thought, I was like, I wanna do a Shakespeare line in a superhero thing. And as I sort of typed it out, it kind of hit me that I went, hey, there's a bit of a double meaning here. All the world's a stage and they're a band, you know, and I kind of surprised myself and I'm like, oh man, that's actually not bad. But right. This line here, although it's just kind of on the surface a bit, you know, like it's kind of cool and it matches up with what is occurring in the book at that time, but it's also very much setting the stage for the things to come because um because the whole premise with this is the idea that you would go and see Anna perform live, and when they're off stage, these are the kind of sort of, what are they actually doing behind the scenes? They're kind of warring over the trajectory of our reality. They're going out freaking to the docks where there's some kind of organization, running a shady deal, and they're kind of fighting against these greater forces influencing the way of the world.
It's a lot of stuff you packed in with the first, and because it's a
Well,
superhero, right? You gotta beat the bad guy.
well, that's the thing. Like, again, like I'm trying to lay down the groundwork without saying too much because
Right. Yeah, sure.
Issue 1, what was important for us was that in terms of what you're getting, we're like, let's throw you straight into the fire. Let's explain stuff more later and just show you some action, show you some cats, give you the basic premise. But then it ends teasing this mystery and the antagonist to come because things will slowly unravel. But like that image you can see there, we wanted to kick off with a bang.
And this is where I'm going to bring another question to you, if you can answer.
All right.
Splash pages are, I think, one of the coolest ways to show your audience there is something epic that's going on here. And when used right, it can impact the reader in a way where it just brings you out. So my question to you is, where do you balance the quiet moments, if there even are any, right? Versus you got to lay it all out there, show the audience, oh my gosh, like this is something big that's happening.
Okay, well, with regards to this issue, it kind of begins sort of, those are the quieter moments. Like you've got something, pretty sort of eye-catching and engaging on the first page, and then it starts to kind of, right, let's lay down the groundwork. And then when you turn the page and you get to the splash page, this page that you see over there kind of marks to you like, all right, boom, we're out of the gates. It's full steam ahead. I think splash pages are really good at tonal shifts because right, they take up literally when you open the book to that, it's now filled your whole perspective. We did that in Gods Among Men, where we kind of did this. We had page 1, and then when you open it up, it goes, the main character kind of ends this line with like, let me show you my world. And when you turn the page, it's this big splash page, and there's a lot going on, but there's some confronting imagery, there's some familiar imagery, and I think that also gives you the opportunity that when you turn the page from the double splash, that you can kind of sort of return back to, you could return it to a different point. You could take it to a different point, or you could just continue from there.
Because some of the splash pages I always go back to are the ones in Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, where it's like this, whole big action scene fighting, where maybe it's two characters like looking at each other, or it's the reveal of a character that might have been seen, and then you go back and it's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It's like this big widescreen event in the midst of an issue, end of an issue, whatever it might be, right? And I think if you place them right, it can, again, like you said, the tone can shift the way that you are feeling about that moment in that specific book, which is always cool to me. Like, I always love seeing splash pages and just seeing how different creators integrate them into the stories that they're putting in.
Absolutely. And I think there's something, that is kind of irreplaceable about physical, right? That when you physically turn a page and now the frame of the book has just your entire field of view is just this is what we want you to look at, that right, that sort of feeling takes over. The creators couldn't more directly let the reader know this is what we want you to feel and what we want you to focus in on.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, I can't wait to see what other splash pages with the because it's cool. It's it's a band, they're rocking out like you gotta lay it out all on them most of
Well,
the times, right?
so for issue one, we're actually kind of focusing more on the comic team element before we start to sort of fuse, because obviously the idea is that we will start to fuse these two worlds.
Mhm.
Um, but we did definitely want it to be a case of like, you could read this, you could pick up this comic never having listened to Anna and go, wow, this is, kind of cool. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh wait, it's a real life band. And then you can check out the videos, you can check out the music. And then, we kind of wanted the music and the band can stand on their own feet. And
Mhm.
we wanted the comic to be able to stand on its own feet, but have the opportunity for them to feed into each other, synergy.
Synergy is good, and also
Yeah.
something that like I've learned, right, with a lot of people nowadays asking for, oh, can we have a good jumping on point for whatever character it might be, right?
Hmm.
Batman, Superman, Spidey, the X-Men. People are always looking for, how can I enjoy something even if I don't have all of this presupposed knowledge? Because I think that is
Mm,
one thing that people preconceived, maybe reserve, or like deservedly or not,
mm,
that is sometimes a barrier to how people can uh, look at these things and say, like, maybe I shouldn't get into it because I don't know anything about the artist, or maybe I don't know anything about this character, or I don't know anything about this franchise, right? So it is
mm,
nice to hear that you guys thought of that.
mm,
Even if somebody has never listened to their music or even read a book about a band before in general, because there are people out there, it's nice to hear that you put those thoughts in.
mm. Well, that's I mean, that's kind of like one of the really interesting different cases about this, was that we've got a blend of people who have come on board, like, because we're running a Kickstarter for it now, and there are people who have come on board who are familiar with our work on Gods Among Men, being our first sort of like coming from comics, and then there are people who have come on board the comic side from being fans of the band, like they've seen the
Mhm,
band live, or they've seen the music videos and they listen to the songs on Spotify, and they went, oh, like, wow, these guys have a comic book. So
mhm,
it was cool to unite these two worlds and see, like, oh, even fans of the comic, I'm like,
sure.
you've got the opportunity to kind of go deeper, and hey, like, we've got videos, we've got songs, so
Mhm.
it's nice.
That is super nice. Like, again, because of the different venues and ways that people experience or read this stuff, not everybody is going to be up to speed with this and that. And also, too, like this probably has to also go along with the ashcan, right? That you created so that people can get a little bit of a sampler to see, what is
Mm,
this about? Is this going to be something that I want to invest my time into? And
mm,
to hear that again, that you've thought of that beforehand with the conceived barriers is a very nice thing to hear.
mm. Yeah, like, we always try and plan out as much as we can, but I think it would be inaccurate for me to say that we knew everything that we were doing. There's a very healthy balance, I think, of um, prospecting and also being quick on your feet and adapting, and that's what any
Mhm.
situation I think needs.
Especially with comics, because the characters also have to do the same thing in their books, right?
Well, absolutely. Like, especially with a band too, right? Because since issue one, the band actually had a lineup change, because this, we started all the way back in, like, work on it in 2023, 2024. So because we were drawing from real life, it was very important for us as well to go, all right, like, how do we pivot? When do we pivot? When we have to. And so there's actually going to be issue two is going to present a very different, I don't know if different is the right word, interesting pivot.
Hmm.
I'll put it that way.
Okay. I like that tease. So if any of you are out there and are thinking of picking number one up and about, man, I want to pick up number one, issue number two is going to rock out for you as well. That's super cool to hear. I want to get to
Well,
two quick comments from King Sport Cal. The first of which is Aaron is you are giving big Donny Cates energy with the hair.
I like Donny Cates because that man has great fashion sense. I was gonna, I was hoping to dress up a little bit more, but I do like this hoodie. It's a stylish hoodie. But yes, I like. Look, I, call me superficial, but I respect the presentation and like that Donny Cates guy. He's got great hair. He knows how to dress. So big
Okay,
ups to him.
high praise.
High
And
praise.
also another question: how closely or often do you use music in your work? Is it in obviously again the band, but is it in the main premise of the story that you're writing?
Uh, so because the way I work with my brother Josh, he is the primary story writer, whereas I'm sort of more the adaptive role. That's like I'm not great with original ideas myself, but I'm
Sure.
more comfortable sort of taking a concept and going, all right, let's work it into a script
Mm.
and like page layout. So actually, for our first title, Gods Among Men, there was this thing that we provided these QR codes at the end of the book that the songs kind of expanded upon the themes that were brought up at play because it
Mm.
was sort of like a true crime, narco noir.
Yeah.
So with Anna, it's kind of interesting because there is a song called Ouroboros, which the lyrics are super hinty and cryptic at the future of the comic. Um, they're very cryptic, but then those lyrics could apply to multiple things. But I will say they were written with the intention to be sort of about future events of the comic. So we like to, probably not the right term, but we like to cross the streams
Mm.
and to try and plant. We love Easter eggs and hiding all these little things all over the place. I
Mm.
think that's fun.
No, for sure. I mean, some of those issues, like sometimes, like what I love about artists is like they'll bring in a random obscure reference from some random different pop culture thing. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's history, maybe it's something, right? They just like
Mm.
place it in the background or just like looking at the little itty bitty details, like, wait, I recognize that. That's a pull. How did you get that? Like that's
It
some of the best things I think in comics on it. Like one of the only things, like one of the things in the medium that I just find the coolest where you can do all of this.
Oh yeah, I'm the firm believer of I like comics that have or books, that have that sort of revisit value, and that was something that I got the chance to have this fun with, which was in the first page of issue 1. We actually where Anna first appears through the portal on Earth, she arrives in Tokyo, which is where the character Joshka, who is the
Mm.
pink-haired guitarist, um, that's where he is, where she finds him. And I had so much fun doing the lettering and having to do all the Japanese signs because like I studied Japanese for like 6 years
Oh,
prior.
okay.
So I had fun sneaking in all these Japanese things, and then I realized that, oh crap, now we're going to Japan in April, and I wonder if any Japanese homie's gonna pick up the book and read it and go like, hey, this sign here, it's saying something really bizarre.
That's gonna be a great moment to have emotionally. Like if you ever get to connect with a fan, they're like, I recognize that. That's me. Like that would
Well,
be
it's one of those things, right? That down to even when we were discussing like how do we sort of where do we place the different characters? Because what helped us was the band members in Anna are already, they're quite diverse in terms of personality, in terms of appearance. So we wanted to sort of like, because at the end of the day, like we are from Australia, but we don't just want to be an Australian band or like Australian comics. Like we're very much, looking to kind of go beyond. Because to be frank, to just stay in Australia, like man, down under, it's pretty rough. If you don't go beyond the borders.
Mhm.
There's a reason why the Brits sent all the convicts here. They, they were just like, yeah, get out of here, just head on down there. So as much, look, don't get me wrong, I love a lot about Australia and the Australian scene, but right, the plan is to go beyond. So we
Mhm.
wanted like, we concocted where like Joshka should be from Tokyo because Tokyo's cool and it's visually great to draw.
Yeah.
And then, like the character like Tori is from Cairo and Cleveland is from Rio de Janeiro. And then Matthew's from this like bizarre, unknown ice part of the world. So the first few pages are quite colorful. And
Mm.
I think when you have the benefit of comic books, it's like, why not utilize it, stretch it,
Oh,
really
for
push
sure.
it.
Oh, absolutely. Keep pushing it all the way till the end. Also, speaking of Australia, I want to give a quick shout out to our great friend, Mr.
Yay!
Bo. Good to see you, man. I hope you're
We
doing
love you.
well. But very, very glad you're here, Bo. Very, very happy that you get to hang out with us tonight. Here's a weird question from Kingsport Cal, I should say. If I was to buy an Omni Grant you, he's a trade guy, what's a good one that's out, in your opinion, if you have one?
In my opinion, what's a good trade? Okay, you know what? And this is it's a really bizarre one because
Sure.
I'm a trade guy. Okay, I don't know about Omnis because I've got horrible attention spans.
Hmm.
I'm kidding you not. I have a wanted trade paperback that's been sitting in my bedside table for like almost 2 months, and I've barely made a dent in it. So I can't advise on Omnis, but I will say that a recent trade paperback that I did read that I was like, this is great, and I smashed through it was
Hmm.
actually Stray Dogs Volume 1.
Oh yeah, good pull. Yeah.
That and shout out to Sharif from Aussieverse who sold it to me, and I was like, yeah, like um I just sort of like heard stuff about it and I thought I'd check it out. And you know what? I really liked the combo of the fun illustrative style, and then when it starts to turn, it's sort of made darker because the animals are so cute. And I also love the I love how the story panned out, and I felt like it was it was a simple enough read,
Yeah.
and it didn't require too much. I'm the worst like that. People are like, why does it take you so long to read the thing with 100 pages? And I'm like, give me single issues, 20 pages at a time. Let's go.
I like the personality that you bring with that to Aussieverse, by the way. Like whenever like you and Sharif are just talking, I'm like, give me some more of that. Also, Kingsport Cal says Danny Coates was great at writing Venom and Thor. What I mean is, I can see Aaron bringing something new to comics.
Well, thank you very much. That's probably a bigger compliment than just the hair and the clothing style. Um, Look, I very much at the end of the day, like I've always been I've always wanted to see. I can't even find the words. I've always wanted to tell stories,
Mhm.
right? Even if it was, I think it took me some time in life to kind of go like, look, I'm not. I've always wanted to be that guy who's just like, oh, and this is an idea, and this is a concept, and then we're gonna do this. I realized my strong suit was in adaptation, so
Yeah.
that's why Josh and I work so well because he's sort of the other way. He can't he's not as good at sort of structuring it into like a script or into a
Mhm.
storyboard. He's got these ideas though, but I'll shoot the spider webs and sort of pull them together, and I'll be like, I'll take all your chicken scratchings and turn it into hieroglyphics, so we
Right.
can. Um,
Part of the back and compliments, yeah.
Part of the backhand. Well, it's funny because somebody once described it. They said, based off how you guys talk about your working relationship, I can just visualize like Josh is pacing around the room and he's going like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr," and then I'm just there like frantically typing on a typewriter, like you know. So look, I would love for us to continue. I think that what we're doing, and we're always trying to push the possible. I think what we're doing is already, a step in a different direction, and I want us to be able to push it further and further and do some do some crazy things story wise and even in the realm of comics. Like, um, yeah, that's what I love doing.
And that's great to hear because, yeah, we love hearing creative minds wanting to do cool creative things. So big compliments to you throughout. And I also wanted to get to the manga inspired storytelling parts, meeting a Western art style. What manga, whatever that might be, has inspired you, and how has that influenced you in creating this story?
Okay, I'm gonna be straight up. When we say manga,
Hmm.
I'm and this is, and again, this could be a controversial opinion, but I'm talking about, in my heart of hearts, what I feel is the one true, which is none other than Naruto. That is the only anime that I watched beginning right up to the end. I don't think I've seen any Shonen Jump that I was that dedicated to. And you know what? Maybe it was just the camp that I was shown. Um, but one big thing that came out of that for me was I was such a big fan of this idea of like following characters go through this transformation from being this like absolute bumbling fool um to becoming, like the savior of the earth. And I would say, in terms of what we took and applied to Anna, was very much a case of, I loved how, like, put simply, I love how they do power scaling in anime. You know, um,
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of the ability. I love moves.
Yeah,
Like, I thought it was so cool when you play like Street Fighter,
right.
and they did Marvel versus Capcom,
Mm-hmm. One of
and
my favorite games ever.
I used to. It's so funny. I used to play Marvel versus Capcom, but my team up would always be Wolverine and Venom,
Oh,
because I would love it when Wolverine comes in and does Berserker Barrage, and then
mhm.
Venom jumps over him and does his, his symbiote thingy.
Right. Symbiote things, gonna eat you, gonna put all that. Yeah.
Right. But it was like they had these signature moves, right? And I like the idea of seeing powers being an extension of personality. I love how you can use there's so many elements you can use that might seem like cool stylistic things, but actually are there to help you uh expand your story.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that. I actually had a slight, digression, but also related. I got to meet the owner of Ormsby Guitars, who actually designed the
Oh,
guitar that Josh is endorsed by, which we featured in the comic book. And he said something so interesting about the guitar being an extension of your personality. It should be an extension of you.
yeah.
Mm. Also,
I
I
love
missed that comment. I'm sorry.
that's a yeah. No, I mean they Kingsport colleges completely agree with you
Yes.
on
Yes.
on the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I lost
love
so
that
much
comment
money.
about the guitar being this extended personality. Because me, I play piano, right? But every
Mm.
single time, like I go up on whatever stage it is I'm going on, it always feels like I'm attached to that piano, and what I'm playing is it's not whatever like the song is. It's the personality behind
Mm.
and playing that song. And in that same case, like you're applying it to your book where it might not necessarily be, it's not just like the type of story, it's you telling that story that makes it so distinct from
Mm.
something else.
And that actually was something that I think in the doing, like I think when I was younger, it's too black and white, right? When you start thinking about writing and you go, if I didn't come up with the concept, then it's not my story. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really right. It's an oversimplification of the way, but I do have this pride, over this. Like when you are sort of granted the honor and the trust to tell this story, that is, to me, sometimes that means more, because you feel responsible to your team to do a good job. And I like when a team feels that way, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to do their best in their respective roles. So right, like being able to bring the best that I possibly can to it, that is amazing. And that is therefore an extension of myself. Look at that. We
Mhm.
come full circle.
I know I love hearing that too because I mean that's it. That is an important part of not only just a solo book, but it's also a team book, right? Like
Mm.
I have played in gigs before where I have played piano, and I've also played in bands and orchestras as a. Actually, I'm gonna bring up Kingsport Cal's comment here because I also play trombone. Like I played
Uh-huh.
trombone when I was in middle school, and then tuba when I was in high school. So but it's stuff like that where like you're writing a team book, right? And
Mm.
it's not only just it's not like it's not an ensemble, right? It's not like all of these like are the same like same character, just like in a
Mm.
band, like it's not just all flutes. You have
Yeah.
clarinets, you've got oboes, you've got saxophones, you've got trumpets, you've got baritones, right? You have so many different of these uh, types of music playing, like types of
Mm,
instruments that are playing alongside of each other, and teams too, right? Like it's not just, again, it's not the same guy. It's different personalities
mm.
going alongside again, like with and against each other, because drama and whatnot. So how do you balance the dynamics of the team when you write your script?
So, in this case, I guess in that sense, like with issue one, because we were more focused on sort of just kind of doing the whole like we're gonna throw you in, we'll explain more later.
Right.
Um, that we definitely wanted like the action scenes to come
Mhm.
and take
Yeah.
precedence. So we let the personalities get showcased
Yeah.
through the action. But I would say it's probably not until issue two that we start to get a better understanding of the team dynamics.
Mhm.
Funnily enough, though, when you talk about the dynamics, I would say two of my favorite characters to write because they're so fun is
Mhm.
Daisy and Lola, who are the two Anna's two interdimensional cat companions. Um, they are very crucial to the team, and they're also like I love I love what a lot of anime and manga. Yep, there they are. Um, they're kind of I love being able to have these sort of they're a bit of comic relief, but
Mhm.
they're also, they're incredibly powerful and they're able to sort of sit in the story, but also narrate the story at the same time, but also be active members of the story. And they've got so much like we drew from their real life personality. Daisy is more calm and calculated. Um, but she will also go through some character development later. And Lola, the white one, is kind of like frenetic, crazy, goofy, and so I love like I'll type up the dialogue and then I'll do the voice, and she'll be like, "But he's tiny," and then well, yeah, yeah, she'd say that.
Oh my gosh. So it's like a lot of thought were was put into these band members, and I can't wait to see how they play along with each other. But it's nice like to have like sort of the first issue, and interesting that you
Mm,
have the first issue as sort of an intro where it's like boom bam action, and then
mm,
the
mm.
next thing you know, it's hey, we get to calm down a bit, get to learn a little bit about them and how different they are and how they work with each other and all that. So that's really
Yeah.
good.
To use a really sort of I'm gonna try and use a crude example in a poetic way, but it's like meeting like a lady for the first time, and sometimes it's just about sparks flying first and then you find out their name the next morning.
Okay, you know what, that is the not crudest way of saying
Something crude,
saying
right?
that phrase.
I took something that was innately not PG, and I was like, how can we repackage this for I'm like DreamWorks, I'm like, how can we repackage this for kids?
I okay. You have me sold on that. I can work with that. I can, it's like me watching SpongeBob, where it's like,
You
you watch SpongeBob, but it's never anything that's like on the nose. But
uh-huh.
anybody who is an adult can
Mm-hmm.
understand some of the tonal jokes that they're making with that
Like
show.
SpongeBob watching like Anemone on the TV and
Yes.
Gary comes. I'm just like, come on, we know.
He gets closer, and Gary's like, Gary. Oh, no. One of my most favorite moments in that show.
But you know what? I think that is great writing because there's something about being able to appeal to. Obviously, you've got the thing that appeal to kids, but then you've got this additional layer that adults will read and be like, you know, you're cheeky. You're very cheeky. I see what you did there.
Oh man, no, it is wonderful. I mean, I can talk about the first three seasons of SpongeBob like all day, every day.
Yep.
Don't care
Yep.
when. This, yeah, that I mean, that was a show growing up. Like my parents banned it because they understood some of the things that were in there, and I had to go to my friends' houses just to get to watch it. But I like the connection that you made.
Mm, mm.
Uh, Aaron also had, or sorry, Aaron Kingsport Cal also has another question for you. Do you play
Hmm.
music whilst reading and or writing comics, like film scores, etc.? What is your work process like?
So because I find that I've got a pretty horrid attention. I used to. Okay, I like I like playing music when I am like writing any kind of script like thing. But when it comes to actually like you talk about, all right, it's time to assemble the files for printing and it's time to put together graphics and letter. I'm like, no, pure silence. Like everybody shut up. Just let me do my thing, you know. But yeah, funnily enough, yeah, when it's the more creative side, I do like a little bit of music. But I'm very basic. I just love that lo-fi live, that one on
Yeah,
YouTube is just like
the one, the
the
24-hour one.
girl,
That
yeah,
yeah.
the girl studying, and I'm just like, I've been listening to that since, freaking almost like 10 years ago, and I've got that lo-fi Stockholm syndrome now. I can't go back.
But it works, right? Like that's the main thing that matters. Like it gets you up and ready.
Well, it does now. Like it's like I've done it. It's like routine, right? It's
Hmm.
like just which side of the bed do you sleep on? It's just the way I've done it, and
Hmm.
so now that is what gets me there. So yeah,
It works for you. It clearly puts you in a good mood and it gets you up and riding, which is another cool thing to hear.
clearly it works for like millions of other people who are also like watching the thing. Lo-fi at 3 a.m. when I'm bored. I'm like, well, I'm not alone.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how many like college nights or like even like nights nowadays where I'm just like I'm working on a paper and that's still playing in the background.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
that's just how it is.
Rahul, another friend of the channel, has a question for you, Aaron. How much input did the band members give for their characters in the comic?
So, obviously they were consulted because we weren't gonna do something like, give one of them a wonky eye and they'd be like, "Hey, what the hell? I don't have a wonky eye." Um, but what was actually kind of cool was I was given the liberty to sort of, because obviously like I'm not part of the band because I can only do bad karaoke. So that's my instrument. Bad drums, bad karaoke, and like adequate bass. So I got to sit back. I've spent a lot of time with the band since day one. Like I remember I was with Josh and Anna when we were first doing the recruitment.
Mhm.
Um, so I got to see everything and meet them all and kind of get to know them as people. And so I was granted this liberty to kind of like apply my collective observation on paper, and then I'd kind of show them along the way because I want to show them too. I'm like, hey, look, like this is you. And then as they check it out, they're like, oh man, that's kind of cool. One funny thing was Cleveland, who is the drummer with the dreads and the massive arms, we showed that to him. And in a comic context, you're like, yeah, of course he's got massive arms. Like everybody's got massive arms in
Right.
comics. And he's just like, screw you, dude. Now I have to like get like unbelievably ripped just to even look
Just to look the
accurate,
part.
just to look comic accurate. Because I'm just
Right.
like looking at it again now. I'm like, his arms are huge. Like the cats are normal, the cats look like cats,
Yeah.
and they kind of that's allowed. But poor Cleveland is gonna have these unrealistic beauty standards placed upon him, and he's just like, I'm just gonna wear long sleeves from now on.
I like the thought and idea of that, and also to hear band input just to
Mm,
make sure that everything runs across is nice and smooth, so you don't have to worry
yeah.
about, oh no, why do I look like a certain part or why do I act like a certain way when maybe I don't. So that's nice to
Well,
hear.
Well, that was it was funny because I remember like we're talking with Anna, we're telling her like, look, we're trying to sort of create this thing with your character, and we weigh in with her things like what she liked to see in costume design, but with Anna, and it's an element that I never really considered prior, but you can see how she values it on the stage and on the page, and she said, my hair must always be fabulous.
Mm.
And I'm just like, okay, that's very specific, like I never considered that, but okay. And then I started to notice that at the live show, so she does this thing where she'll get this fan and she'd stick it in the stage, and she would play with the fan on stage. And I had a friend come to a show, and he's like, is Anna's hair like a paid actor? Like
Mm.
it's got a mind of its own, it's like freaking bopping and moving to the song. And I went, huh, I'd never really paid attention to that. So there's all these other considerations, right? That is so cool to
Right.
have somebody else's perspective place importance in that I didn't see, but
Mhm.
somebody else in the audience clearly went, that is cool that she gave focus to that. So Anna's hair must always be on fleek. Yeah.
You're just writing in your script to send off
Yeah.
to Ben. Hey, make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
the hair detailed like this and that.
yeah.
Like,
The hair's on fleek, the shoulders tone, and like I'll
Mhm.
even have Anna go to me like, can you please tell Ben to make the boobs, like more bigger, and the butt. And I'm like, yeah, right on, because that's what that it's like the excess of the 90s, and I'm like,
Mhm.
sorry, Ben, word from Anna, please, thicker booty, please. Thanks, Ben. And he's like, I got you. I read you loud and clear.
It's funny. Like someday I would love to show you the scripts to All Star Batman and Robin #1
I
with
would love to
Frank
see it.
Miller and
Ah,
Frank Miller like is in the script telling Jim like you need to make the bigger, and I'm like there is no way Frank told Jim to put that on the script,
well,
but it's real.
but that's the thing, right? I think a lot of people, when it comes to creating, it is. I know we don't plan 100% of every single element, but there is a lot of intentionality that goes behind a lot of the end product that you see. In films too.
There is a
And
lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes back there, but it's cool that you have those notes, I guess.
yeah, yeah, they might be written, they might be conveyed over phone, but I'll tell you, it's just how it is. Thank you. It's true. It's funny, but it's like, you know, it's funny because I never that was never something that stuck out to me. And then I've got Anna going, like, reviewing it over, and she's like, yep, no, more, like, you know. And I'm just like, can you please tell Ben, because I don't want to act that out to him. Like, I know we're close and we get along well, but he's gonna start looking at me different now.
Oh my gosh, Eric, you would be perfect for the AMAs that Omar hosts, like with those comments or with
Dude,
Anna's or whoever's saying it, not me.
look,
Um,
you just tell me what I am allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say, and then send me the invite, and we'll. I
okay.
won't Ricky Gervais it, but, like, we can do.
Yeah, I kind of wish Josh was in the chat because he would be all over it if he were here. So
Just tell me how long my leash is, and let me go
we'll
straight.
lay it out. Near mint condition after dark. You know what? We've never had one
Oh,
of those on this channel because Omar is usually asleep by now. Um,
well, have you seen Aussieverse? Well, I keep telling Bo, I'm like, we gotta call it Aussieverse After Dark, because I'm already putting myself on a leash there, and he lets me say some pretty, unhinged things
mhm.
within reason. Within
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, we've never tried that again here because California. Like once it gets past like 9 California time,
That's
viewership is a lot down,
wow.
as you might imagine, right? So
You gotta and bring back the, what do they call it, the Irish coffee, so that way it's got,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you can be drinking, but then you can also be perked up with the caffeine.
Mhm. I also wanted to, if Josh is still here, he did mention to me, "Oh, you've never been day drinking," and I'm like, I've believe it or not, I've actually never had a sip of alcohol in my life.
Wow.
I know.
No.
Yeah, never. I've been offered many, many times. In
Well, you
fact,
know
I've
what?
go. Sorry.
Don't do it.
Okay. I drink apple juice a lot. That's my
Oh,
flair of drink. Um,
sugar's
but
bad for you.
I've heard, but a lot, my dad only does it socially, but I also have a lot of family members who do it excessive, like back in the Philippines, and it's like
Mm-mm.
I don't want to be, like a quick question. Like I'll go back to the questions after this, but
Mm.
the last time like I was in kindergarten. I was like 7 years old, right? And my great uncle was like on like his seventh or eighth bottle, and
Wow.
he, yeah,
Of beer
man.
or
But
of.
here's the thing: he talked to me about because there's a lot of I'll just say wild animals that run in our neighborhood, and he spooked off like two or three because he's this big gruff guy, and nobody wants to get a hold of that, right? So next thing you know, the next time the animal like tries to go over and like do something to him, he runs the animal down the hill from where my grandpa's house is, comes back with it, and the animal's dead. And I'm just here as a kindergarten, like, wow, this is fine.
You're just like, can we not visit this uncle, anymore? Like, he doesn't give good presents at the reunions. He tells you he
No,
knows you,
but
and then he
this
tells you he's
still happen anyways because it
oh
is what
wow.
it is. Here's a good question though from King Sport Cal. What DC Marvel characters would you say are akin to the people in this issue?
Wow. Huh. Okay. To use sort of more general, look, I will say which Marvel DC characters I like, and then try and see if I can make some connections. But one key thing about Anna, this as in the team, like they're not just like your typical, and that was something that we made a point to establish, right? They are fighting to combat sort of sinister forces, but they're not like we have a moral ethical code. Like they will kill, they will, do whatever that they feel like, is okay to do. But obviously they're still trying to combat something larger at play. So I would say anti-hero.
Okay.
Look, I think Punisher is great. Um, love the Punisher. In the Daredevil series as well, and
Yeah.
then I actually, for the first time recently, watched the Punisher with Thomas Jane.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. I thought that was great. It was good time. I did get quite into Ghost Rider for a bit. I think it was what was his name? Mark Texeira on
Yeah, Mark
pencil.
Teixeira, yeah, on the 90s stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I did get pretty deep into the 90s stuff. I did like that. I quite enjoyed issues of Spectre, Hellblazer.
Mm-hmm.
I
Who
kind
doesn't
of
love a
like
good John Constantine comic?
I did, yeah. Like it's funny, right? Because when I started actually reading the books, and I'm just thinking about the Keanu Reeves movie, and I'm like, he looked nothing like him.
Mm-hmm.
But I did really enjoy the Keanu Reeves Constantine film. But
Mm-hmm.
I do, I don't know, I like to walk on the dark side of things. Even if I look, one of my biggest comic, I'm the biggest comic fan for this series, which is Spawn. That was actually when I started sort of like properly recollecting again.
Mm-hmm.
Spawn issue 5 was the first book that I picked up, that first
Interesting.
appearance of. Yeah, well, it's Billy Kincaid, who is he's a, like a dark serial killer kind of character. And I just kind of liked, because I had a few other books, like I had like a Justice League of America and some Spider-Man. And I'm like, okay, this is fun, this is cool. And then Spawn, I was just like, oh, he just dealt with the situation, Like I know now there's this whole thing of he's back, he's not back, he's back. But at that point in time when I read it, I really just liked that, like, the job is done, and then in Naruto, when they defeated the first group of, antagonists, it was like, okay, next one. And because to me, that also showed this growth. I really like seeing, okay, next one, and then there's a new guy, and then it's a bigger threat, and you deal with that. So I'm kind of dancing around the question, but the answer to which Marvel DC character, I'm just like,
I like all the ones that are edgy and cool.
I like all I'm such an edgy. I should bring the fringe. Should bring the fringe down with the hood and just like, yeah, man, I like all the dark characters.
Oh my gosh.
But no, I do like them because I like that they present a less black and white perspective, and that's something that we lean very heavily into our first title, Gods Among Men, which was like society believes that justice will always prevail and it's about good versus evil, but really it's about shades of gray.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like, if we're gonna write a superhero story,
Yeah.
we kind of can't change our own philosophy and ethos. So we thought, let's do a superhero story our way.
Interesting stuff. And I like the sort of quote you pulled in with everything we look at as shades of gray. Like I had a chance to talk to Cy Spurrier, who's currently writing Flash, and he's also
Mm,
written Hellblazer. He is
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd actually like really like that. It's super recent too. Like
Mm,
that and the Dead in America series are like they're both like 11 issue series. I think you would enjoy them. But one thing that always stuck out to me was that he hates just looking at the world as sort of like this black and white lens, and
mm,
that
mm,
you're
mm,
looking at it from the fact that people are complicated, people are
mm,
complex, and people are messy, and we need to analyze that every single time you're
mm,
reading one of these books. And that was always something that hit me when I thought like, wait, yeah, he's right.
mm,
It's
mm.
not just like, oh, the answer is A and B. Usually, like not everything is a true or false on the test, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
And
always something that I'm like, man, in the back of my head, I have to keep remembering. So
mm, no, I've got full respect for, writers, especially when you enter like an established sandbox, right? And you have the pressure of like, oh, I don't want to, piss off fans or step on toes. Can I do this? Can I do that with the character? So full respect when a writer gets behind it and is still able to make it theirs. Um, yeah, that's just
yeah, it's
respect.
beautiful stuff. Also, this is, I think, in relation to Anna. If it had been me, I wouldn't have made jokes about his wife's hair. I would have made jokes about his wife's boyfriend.
If I I would love to be smart enough to make a joke that good, but um that yeah, like I mean, I love Ricky's wittiness and his kind of like I don't care attitude, and I guess for that reason I like that we're able to play in our own sandbox,
Mhm,
because now I go, we can do whatever we want with our superheroes, we can do whatever we want with our
mhm.
stories. Don't get me wrong, it'd be kind of a cool thing to be able to play in someone else's sandbox too. But like look at like Ricky is like he's just unapologetically him. And I think at its core, if anyone and if you haven't seen our Instagram, it's worth a curious peek, because we just don't really care when it comes to reels and marketing. We'll do
Mhm.
anything. Um it's goofy. I think I've tried doing just about every impression and accent under the sun, just to be like, hey, by the way, we got a comic now.
I will. James, if you are here, please link that Instagram down below. I have no idea if he's still awake because this is again usually like the way past time. But James, I always think he's awake because he just knows and goes everywhere, as you know. And Bo, if he's here, I mean, James is literally in like point A to point B in the matter of like point 0.2 seconds. I'm like, you were just here. How did you get? But yes, Instagram is awesome, and we'll let people know about. But yes, on that case too, with the creative aspect of it, I think one of the biggest things, sort of in the like post COVID, is this rejuvenation of the brand new creative idea, right? Like the biggest books I think right now are the ones that are inspired heavily by people saying like this is our own spin
Mm,
on whatever story it might be, right? Like I always think of like, Kyle Higgins is doing over in the massive verse with books like Radiant Black,
mm,
Radiant
mm, mm.
Red, etc. You think of like Image just like has every single book that you can think of nowadays from so many
Yes.
different imprints, and same with Boom, Dark Horse too,
Mm.
with whatever Bendis is doing, Mignola's doing. Like it's
He's
and I
beautiful.
think
Yeah.
like just to hear you say like we have something in our brains that we want to put in, the creative aspect of it, the different aspect of it, the we don't have to be bogged down by 80 years of continuity aspect of it is a very nice thing to have, I think.
Mm. Like I'm also a big fan of and that's the thing. I know there are stories that are kind of intended to be these legacy things to keep going, but I love um in the best possible way with the best intentions, but I love it when a story ends, you know?
Yeah.
Um, because like it can be a long, like for me, when Naruto, I remember I actually stopped watching it for a period because I'm like, it just keeps going. I'm like, there's just so many episodes,
Mhm.
it's not that I don't have the time, I don't have the attention span. And then I heard that it ended, and I went, okay, we can get back to it. We can resume.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why for me it was so important that, well, for me and for Josh, when we were talking about the future, and we said Gods Among Men, our first title, we know its end. It's got a definite end. We know how many arcs it would continue for. Same with Anna as well. That these things, because I thought this was the most beautiful line in a Marvel film that was not their best film, but Vision says to Ultron, he goes, "A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts."
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh, I was like, oh, I made that exact sound, by the way. Um,
I like that. No,
yeah,
it's
well, I just thought, I was like, yeah, I personally love when a story, you tell it, it's got the middle, and right, there's highs and lows in the middle, but then you get to the end, it ends beautifully, and then people go, is there more? And you go, no, that was, be grateful.
yeah, for sure. And that's the nice thing about a lot of these, off stories too. Like I remember when I got through Hickman's East of West and like that final issue and like knowing that there was an ending in sight, they finally got to it and we said,
Mm,
"Oh, this is the tail end of the stories that these characters are telling," right? It's very nice to have a I mean, yes, but comics will keep on going because they will. The X-Men will continue having stories because of course
hmm
they will, but also to know that like at the end of something is we're going to place a bookend on it. We don't have
mm,
to worry about revisiting because everything that's in there is already here in that published work.
mm, mm, mm.
So it's
And
it's a nice thought to have where it's I know where the road is and I know
mm,
where we're not only starting with, but we know where the road ends and it's obviously the journey that you're going along. So,
absolutely, like um I know people kind of find themselves in these things where they're trying to brainstorm, and you try, and sometimes you do have to make things up as you go, but like I said, I think we enjoy the creative part so much that that feels easy in comparison to the other obstacles and challenges, like in our way, all the other factors that have to be considered when you want to get into comics or music or anything else.
oh, for sure. And that's one of the beauties. And I'm very happy that we've gotten through that. So,
Yeah,
kudos.
thank you. I'm very
Kudos. Kudos. Yeah,
I'm
1 a.
excited.
I know. I'm surprised as well. Like, it's insane to say.
1 a.m.
1 a.m. or well, Eastern Coast, anyways. Yeah. Oh,
Eastern
I wish
time.
Omar were here, New Sui, because yeah, it's yeah, it's unusual. I will say it is a little bit unusual for those parts, but I think that's yeah, unless there's anything else that you'd love to share. I mean, that is what I have wrapped in for. I mean, this has been fun to talk to you about the
Yeah,
process and the work, and finally be able to talk as well.
absolutely. Thank you for letting me be like this controlled chaos of stories and expression, and this was fun.
Oh
Let's
man,
do it again sometime.
I agree. And maybe I'll pop in on Aussie first when it's not an unearthly hour for me. So.
No, you have
Uh,
to. It has to specifically be an unearthly hour. That's the one criteria.
Oh, I know. Thank you for being here, Rahul. I know that it's like way past Omar's bedtime, but hey, I mean it's yeah, it is what it is. And
After
yeah,
dark.
I'm the child here, okay? Like that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. But I want to thank everybody here who's watching now and also after. Please check out Cynation Comics. I've placed in Aaron's Instagram down below. So if you want to learn more about Anna and what he is up to, you can humbly check that out. And again, I want to thank him for after like 2 months of scheduling, finally being able to sit down and chat with me about comics. So
Well, it
um,
was my absolute pleasure. Oh
I'm
no!
sorry. I'm sorry, Newsville.
It's
Yeah,
not it's not EST friendly.
it's not EST friendly, unfortunately. It's not even PST friendly. But hey, I mean, I had fun doing this, and hope to talk to you soon as well, and give me the
Absolutely.
updates and let me know how the Japan tour goes. So All
Yes.
that again will be down below. Check out Aaron below. And unless there's any, what else, anything else you'd like to add with that?
Look, I'm pretty happy. I think we covered a lot of ground, which I'm glad. So if anybody has any other questions, speak now, forever hold your peace, whatever they say, and yeah, hit us up, check us out, go suss out them reels, yo.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that's not Gen Alpha lingo, but anyways,
Skibbity.
I will say, New Spooey, real quick before you leave. I did just realize like what the title that I put earlier, and like how people can mistake it for something else with Anna and the exclamation
Oh,
point.
I
I got
just
it's like the SpongeBob anemone thing that we were talking about earlier.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, me too.
And the whole time we spend this, we didn't even bring up the main topic.
No.
That's for After Dark.
That is for, but hey, if this wasn't an After Dark stream, I don't know what is. But again, I'm Domovex. I am the manager of Near Mint Condition. Please like, subscribe if you haven't. James, I wish you were still with us, but I guess he's sleeping. So it is what it is. Hope to talk to all of y'all later.